You a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping Werewolf by Night from one full moon to the next and everywhere in between. With me, as always, is Steve Haller. Steve, what's up, man?
Well, I'm not gonna bury the lead on this one.
Let's not bury the lead.
This was the only A+ I've seen from Marvel in a long time.
A long time. Yes. For me, this was an absolute out of the park grand slam home run.
Yeah, they
of a thing.
Nailed it.
My God, I love this. I loved Werewolf by Night so much.
Yeah, from the first moment that Gael Garcia Bernal walked into the screen, you're just like, and even before that, the narrator in the initial. Like, it had that feel of what was his name that used to like narrate all those like 50s horror, like classic horror.
Oh, like a Vincent Price?
Yeah, Vincent Price is what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
I was like, it was just like it hit the right notes and everything right from the jump was like,
yeah,
I'm in, and it was great.
Yeah, it was like a perfect homage to like horror movies from like the 30s through the 50s. Obviously, a very stark black and white style, like campy in all the right places, scary in all the right places, just wonderful. And it was gorgeous too. It was shot beautifully in black and white. Yeah, I don't know. I loved it. Interested to see when we see this character again.
Yeah, or any of the characters. I mean,
or any of the characters again.
Because
let's talk about. Well, let's. I was gonna say I don't know how to get into it, but let's just get right into it. I guess. Not only do we get the titular werewolf by night, whose character name I don't remember is
Jack Russell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jack Russell.
Not on point or anything. Just straight up.
Yeah.
I am a dog.
Straight up
it's
reference
fine.
to a dog. Yeah.
Who strangely,
Jack Russell.
Historically, family was the Russovs. And their powers came from the Darkhold.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That could have been I like that they didn't. I like that this didn't really tie into any other MCU thing.
Right.
It did show us the Avengers in some like drawing at the very first image after the title sequence was like a sketch of the Avengers that turned into like other stuff as the narration kicked in. And I think that was merely to say like, yep, this takes place in the MCU. This is an MCU thing. It's not a what if. It's not an Elseworlds. Like this is where we are, which I loved.
Yeah.
And I am increasingly learning this about myself when it comes to both DC and Marvel. Like, yes, I like the mainline characters. You know, I read tons of Batman. I read lots of Superman stuff, Spider-Man, whatever have you. I love all those characters. But I'm realizing as I get older, I am really into like the darker, more mystical, magical, monster-y based areas of those two universes, whether it be DC or Marvel. Like I'm into that. I like it a lot.
The Venn diagrams of things that Mike Gibson enjoys, like that fits directly into where the overlapping circles are. So I get it.
Yeah. Like I've been reading tons of Justice League Dark, you know, Constantine, Swamp Thing, Zatanna stuff on my digital DC Universe Infinite app. And then like this special, I was like, oh yeah, I want just werewolves for the Marvel Universe. Like when's Blade coming? I want Blade now. You know, like, this is what I want. So anyway, yes, okay, we get Jack Russell, the titular werewolf by night. We get Elsa Bloodstone. I don't remember a casting announcement for Elsa Bloodstone happening. I got very excited. I don't even know much about her, but I knew the name enough to be like, holy shit, Elsa Bloodstone.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, that was the thing, because they didn't even announce her. It was like when they said Ulysses Bloodstone, like when they first bring the hunters together.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're here at the memoriam for Ulysses Bloodstone, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. I know that name.
Yeah, I was like, Bloodstone, that's a familiar name.
Yep. Like, I had no idea who her father was, but like, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're into familiar territory.
Yeah. And last, but certainly not least, Man-Thing was in this special, and he was teased in a very quick shot of the trailer. I assumed that was going to be nothing but a Easter egg or a picture of him. Like, couldn't really tell from the trailer. Like, I thought it was going to be, just a Flash kind of cameo. But no, Man-Thing is straight up in this special. If you don't know who Man-Thing is one of two examples that I can think of where Marvel and DC have similar characters, and Marvel actually came out with theirs first. Mostly, if you run into that situation, whatever, Hawkeye, Green Arrow, Dr. Fate, Doctor Strange, a lot of time, I'd say 90% of the time, DC's character came out first just because they were operating for 30, 30 years before Marvel started. So, like, sure. But in the case of Namor, the Submariner, and Aquaman, Marvel's came out first. And in the case of Man-Thing and Swamp Thing, Man-Thing came out first, but only by like 2 months. And Steve and I just had a whole discovery right before we started recording
the pre-roll was an epiphany for both of us.
Yeah. The two, like, the writer that wrote the first appearance of Swamp Thing and the writer that wrote the first appearance of Man-Thing were roommates at the time, and obviously those characters started out actually very similar ideas, like, hey, let's make a swamp monster, right? Yeah. But I think they kind of diverged paths shortly after their debut, so they, there's never any legal action or anything like that, but they both have Thing in their name. They both come from and have swampy plant powers, so certainly some similarities. I would say a big similarity, and Steve and I, we have not read a whole lot of Man-Thing. We both know who Man-Thing is and think that is an interesting character. But at least in this MCU version, something that separates Man-Thing from Swamp Thing, seemingly Man-Thing does not speak or doesn't speak English, maybe communicating telepathically with Jack. We're not really sure how he understands what Man-Thing is saying.
It seems like a very Chewie and Han type.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So maybe he speaks swamp monster somehow. I don't know. Or there's a telepathic thing.
You're not fluent in giant green swamp monster.
Yeah, exactly. Where Swamp Thing can speak and maintains a humanity, at least in appearance, that Man-Thing doesn't seem to have.
Right. Other aside, for some reason, every time I think of Swamp Thing, my brain initially has a picture of Toxic Avenger, and I don't know why. It's like it's always gone. Yeah. I'm like, oh wait, no, wrong guy. Go through the catalog again. Try that one.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So we got all those characters in this episode, plus more, but yeah, the rest of them didn't make it out alive. Spoiler alert. So so Jack shows up for the, as a collector of hunters, monster hunters, basically. I loved the reveal that the Ulysses Bloodstone was like an animatronic animated corpse. Like, there's such dark shit in this special for Marvel. I think they got away with a lot of it because it was either like kind of jokey, like having a corpse come be a animatronic animated thing giving a speech is like funny, but it's also pretty dark at the same time. Certainly, that at least is on the level of something like maybe Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. That has some dark stuff in it too. So it's not like Marvel's never done anything like this, or like MCU, I should say. Of course, Marvel has done 3 R-rated Blade movies, but MCU proper Marvel hasn't done anything really to this level, especially when it comes to blood and blood splurting out of people's bodies as they go spinning through the air, which happened a couple times, and I loved every second of it. And I think they got away with it because it was black and white and wasn't bright red blood splurting everywhere. It was
that last that last hallway scene, the sequence, the fight sequence where the blood is splattering on the camera.
Yes.
Like, the effect was awesome. Everything was shot perfectly, but I was just sitting there thinking, how'd they get away with this?
I know.
It's gotta be.
There's one shot, I think, he like bites somebody's throat or something, and then throws them, and the body goes spinning, and the blood goes spinning around the body. I was like, this is incredible. I love this. And the best part of it was that, like, it's 50 minutes long or something. It's maybe 45 with credits or whatever, but it's not a movie length thing. It's a little bit longer than a regular like 20-minute half-hour show.
Yep.
and it's called Werewolf by Night, but the whole first half of it, there's not a werewolf in sight. They don't hint that he's a werewolf. They don't hint that anybody's a werewolf. They don't say I don't think they say the word werewolf in the entire special.
No,
because they just say that he's a monster.
Right.
Because the whole first half
yeah.
is him struggling to find. We find out that he's there to rescue Man-Thing. Man-Thing is the monster that they're hunting.
Please.
And he's rescuing him to get him out.
They're not there to rescue Man-Thing. He's looking for Ted.
Sorry, Ted. Sorry. How could I be so careless?
That whole scene with him and Elsa, and how do I call him? Well, Ted. That's his name.
That's his name.
Like,
yeah.
Like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
you call him by his name.
Yeah. So that I felt like that was really engaging to the point where I kind of stopped I stopped wondering when Jack was going to turn into a werewolf because I was so engaged in the plot. Well, part of me was like, is it even going to be Jack? Are they going to like give us a twist that it's going to be Elsa or somebody else? You know, we expect it to be Jack, but maybe this is his origin and he's going to get bitten by whoever the real werewolf is. Like I was thinking that. But then it was so good that I was so invested in the rescuing Ted storyline that I kind of forgot. And then when he got away, I was like, oh, here comes the werewolf thing. Yeah, it was just so good. That scene where Elsa is like fighting that dude with the crossbow on his arm, and
oh yeah,
and he ends up with an arrow through the bottom of his chin, coming out his mouth. And then she has to lay underneath his dead, bleeding corpse to hide from the other guy.
Mind you,
I was like, this is the MCU now that we're watching, right? This is crazy.
And that crossbow bolt was shot from his severed hand.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
She slices his arm off, uses his own crossbow to shoot an arrow through his head, and then has to hide under his corpse.
Oh, so good. Oh, yeah. So good.
Like, huh?
Like, This is the like you said, it's first A+ for Marvel for the MCU in a long time. I agree with that. This is the first Marvel thing I am guaranteed to rewatch.
Yeah.
In a long time.
Yep.
Like I have thought about rewatching Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I have thought about rewatching Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings. I have not. I don't really think I plan on rewatching any of Marvel's shows. I also want to rewatch Black Widow, but again, I haven't. I am 100% going to rewatch Werewolf by Night.
Yeah, 100%. And quickly.
Yeah,
it will be in the near future.
This week.
Yeah,
yeah.
I do want to point out one thing, and easily my favorite scene in the entire show, when they're starting the entire hunt, the flaming tuba.
Dude. Yes, you texted that to me.
I was like, there's a flaming tuba. I'm all in. Like, what more do you need?
That was like some just crazy, awesome imagery that they don't explain. No. You don't need him to explain it. You're just like, this is badass. Yeah, it's super cool. This guy's playing a tuba. It's on fire. Like, you know, I'm kind of like, is he supposed to be playing the music that I'm hearing right now? Because I hear a tuba, but I think it's just there. I think it's just I don't think it's supposed to be coming from his tuba. I think he's just marching in and it's on fire. And I was like, yep. And then like, because first it was from the back and I was like, it looks like a tuba on fire. Is it actually on fire? Or is something holding something on fire in front of it? And then they did another shot. I was like, nope, that is the tuba straight up on fire. And it wasn't even coming out of like the bell of the tuba. It was just the top of it was just on fire for no reason. Loved it so much.
This is what happens when a composer directs things.
Yeah, I was going to say, I did not want to end this interview. I didn't want to end this review without mentioning or reminding listeners that this was Michael Giacchino, famed composer. This was his directorial debut, and he also scored it. I also loved, by the way, speaking of the score, the classic Marvel intro music was,
campified,
classic horror-ified. It was like in a minor key, and it was great. So cool.
Yeah, really, and even the initial the Marvel roll there was all
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Well, but I mean even the optics for it was it matched what the music was doing and everything. It was like all the attention to detail that we fell in love with Marvel because of came back in this 150-something minute special.
I would take a Werewolf by Night special every Halloween. Like, give me another one every year.
Right.
45 minutes long, 50 minutes long. Him on another adventure. Doesn't have to be an epic thing, just another werewolf encounter. They've already got, I saw like, they've already got someone pretending to be him at Avengers Campus at Disney World.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've got a Werewolf by Night. Maybe it's just like
for that person.
I'm sure it's just for like spooky season.
Because they like that was the other thing is the fact that Jack was all practical effects. Like that was the actual like classic Wolfman fur.
Yeah, and it was makeup too. Yeah. And I can see where if it was because of the heightened reality kind of that we were watching and like the campiness and the style of it, it fit perfectly. I can see if it was like a real Avengers movie, he might stick out as being like, okay, that makeup kind of looks dumb because he doesn't look like a real wolf or something. But like, I don't know, for what this was, for it being a tribute to old horror movies, Universal horror movies, I was like, this looks perfect. He looks kind of like Lon Chaney Jr. meets some other Marvel-y version, you know. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Speaking of effects, I will say there's like two nitpicky things that slightly bugged me. I didn't love that they made the Bloodstone red. I would have just loved the entire thing to be black and white.
Okay.
Like it felt like it was like them being a little nervous that it was black and white. So, well, let's just make the Bloodstone red so at least there's like a pop of color so we don't lose people. I would have liked that it was just white light or something, you know.
If they hadn't had the finish at the end, I think I really would have hated it.
Yeah, like, I think that definitely tied it
yeah.
better together when seemingly the world changed into color. What I don't know if that was
with perfectly like somewhere over the rainbow playing.
Yeah, yes.
It's like, oh wait, we've seen this before. Okay.
The other thing that I would say is that because everything was shot and like the sets, the way the movie was being filmed, shot, written, felt exactly like it was, you know, again, an homage to the early Universal horror films. I feel like in that kind of environment, when you use CGI in any way, it sticks out wildly. Like anything that's black and white, but then also has like a computerized swamp monster in it, it just like really stuck out. Like, okay, that is clearly a different aesthetic, even though like it was designed to kind of fit what we were looking at. It was like, okay, I could wildly tell that it was CGI.
Oh yeah,
it was good CGI. It looked good, but it like stuck out as
because of the way the rest was shot.
Clearly doesn't belong in a 1940s horror movie, you know.
Yeah, I get you.
But I will say, when it did fade into color at the end, that last scene, him sitting with Man-Thing drinking coffee, I thought Man-Thing looked incredible. I thought he looked incredible. Yes, he looked real. He looked like he was really sitting there. It looked awesome.
Well,
awesome.
even the scene before that, when he's walking out, like after he meets Elsa, and he's walking out and like throwing the bodies and whatever, like I thought that was fitting. But I I get in the action scenes and all that in the early, where it kind of like was like, oh, this is kind of slightly jarring. But yeah, I thought it was just hilarious where he's walking and like a body is like stuck on his leg and he just kind of kicks it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he went that way. Okay.
Yeah.
And the aesthetic looked very similar to, like, if you pulled up Man-Thing, they nailed what it looks like.
Oh yeah, it looks exactly like him. And that's another difference. Did I say this already? That Man-Thing looks more like a thing, where Swamp Thing looks more like humanoid. He has like more of like a human face.
Right.
Doesn't have these like long tentacle things that droop down from his face or whatever.
Man-Thing looks like what you would expect Swamp Thing to look like, and Swamp Thing looks like something that Man-Thing would be, you know.
I guess
man in the name.
More like
it would look more like a man.
Yeah. Well, clearly they were stealing off each other there, Len Wein and Jerry Conway.
Which Len Wein wrote the second Man-Thing story.
So,
which I just saw was drawn by Neil Adams. So,
R.I.P. Neil Adams.
Yep. But yeah, it's this show made me want to go back and read more Werewolf by Night and Man Thing and any of that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like a world that I want to see more in. I'm interested if we do get these characters in something like Blade, or if they end up making like a Midnight Suns movie or series, or are we just gonna get another Werewolf by Night special? Again, I would love another Werewolf by Night special next Halloween. Do it, Giacchino. Come on. I know you're busy writing scores for every Disney movie ever, but come on, let's get one on the books. Let's book it. Or just have him show up in Blade. I don't know. I would just love this. I want a Marvel monster verse, like under the banner of the MCU. I want like a small corner of the MCU stuff that's all like dark and spooky and monstery. It'd be great.
Absolutely. If they can keep pulling it off like this, I'm 100% there for it.
100%. Yeah, I think it was just, I mean, something like this, you kind of automatically see it as, okay, this is what it is now, but then when Jack Russell shows up in Avengers 5, he's going to look different, he's going to act different, but he's not going to be in black and white, like that kind of thing. So you kind of have to expect that it won't always be like this, although I hope it is, or I hope they retain it enough that it feels different and it feels special, because I think the tone and the black and whiteness of it, the way that it was shot, all that contributes to why you and I thought it was so great.
Yeah.
Because it didn't look like anything else, didn't feel like anything else we'd ever seen from the MCU. And that's typical of the MCU, is that something starts out, it feels fresh and good, and then by the second or third time we've seen it, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, this just feels like Marvel again. But hopefully this is different enough that it that freshness lasts a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, there was enough that was new and fresh that I think you're right that the freshness will be, or I think your hope is right that the freshness will stick around.
Yeah.
So.
Because and I feel like it's got to, because otherwise, I mean, he's a werewolf, he's a monster. Like, the cop out would be like, hello, Jack Russell. My name's Bruce Banner. I've invented this inhibitor collar that if you wear this, it prevents you from, or it allows you to control the werewolf. Like, okay, well, that's not exciting anymore, because werewolves are monsters, and it's funny. It's not funny, sorry. It's more fun when he loses control, similar to the Hulk. Like, I think it's kind of more fun when the Hulk is a rampaging monster.
Right.
But something
like
a werewolf, you don't really want a safe werewolf, because that's not what a werewolf is.
Right. If you want in control Hulk, you go check out Jennifer Walters. If you want a Hulk, you go check out Bruce Banner. There you go.
Yeah.
Like, you got different flavors of Hulk. Yeah. It's fine.
Although now that I say that, I think I would like to see a conversation between Bruce Banner and Jack Russell, because they would understand each other.
Yeah.
A little bit. They have some common problem or common history.
Hey, this other guy that lives inside me, he shows up every once in a while. Help?
Yeah. But anyway, hopefully they can keep it horror based and monster based, and lean a little away from the world of superheroes proper. But that's about all I got to say about Werewolf by Night, other than I love it, and I'm probably going to watch it again tomorrow. So other than that, you got anything else, Steve?
No, I'd say if you're watching on Twitch, hang around and check out our next episode, recapping the week's nerdy news, like we always do. If you are listening in audio form, there's one more in your podcast feed. If you don't have it in your podcast feed, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to please leave a review, leave a 5-star review if you could. Leave some words. Helps the algorithm let us know, or let them know that you like us. There we go. That works. Either way, check us out, the Multiverse Report at gmail.com, themultiverseport.com, Multiverse Report on all your social medias. And that's probably about it.
Yeah, that's it for me. And so, like Steve said, if you're watching live, stay tuned for our weekly recap of nerd news coming up in a minute. Otherwise, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.